February 19, 1945, 7 in the morning. Red Beach 2, Iwo Jima. Gunnery Sergeant John Basilone hit the black sand and knew they were in trouble. The whole beach was a killing zone. Marines were pinned down everywhere. Couldn't move forward. Couldn't retreat. Machine gun fire tore through the air from hidden bunkers. Mortar shells exploded in the volcanic sand. Bodies piled up at the water's edge. His company couldn't advance 30 yards. The Japanese had turned this beach into a graveyard. Basilone was 28 years old, already a legend. He'd earned the Medal of Honor at Guadalcanal 3 years earlier, killed hundreds of Japanese soldiers in a single night with just his machine guns and his bare hands. The Marine Corps wanted him safe at home selling war bonds, making speeches, shaking hands with movie stars. He hated every minute of it. He belonged with his men, so he'd fought his way back here, back to combat, back to the war. He'd even turned down a commission to stay with the enlisted guys. And now, 5 months after marrying the love of his life, he was back in hell. The blockhouse sat 50 yards up the beach, a massive concrete fortress, steel doors that opened to fire, then slammed shut before you could shoot back. The Marines called these bunkers pillboxes, but that name was too soft. This thing was a monster. Inside were Japanese machine guns, mortars, and maybe 20 soldiers ready to die. The guns inside that blockhouse had already killed dozens of Marines. Every time a squad tried to move, the pillbox opened up, cut them down. The entire company was stuck. 200 men trapped on an open beach. No cover, nowhere to hide. The Japanese had the perfect angle, perfect fields of fire. They could see everything, and they weren't missing. Someone had to take out that blockhouse. Basilone looked at his men, young kids, most of them, 18, 19 years old, fresh out of boot camp. This was their first battle, their first time under real fire. He could see the fear in their eyes. That blockhouse had to go, right now, or they'd all die here on this beach. Basilone grabbed a satchel of grenades, looked at his second in command. The guy shook his head. "Don't do it, Sarge. It's suicide. You'll never make it." Basilone smiled. Then he stood up and charged. 50 yards, that's all it was. 50 yards across open sand while Japanese machine guns tracked him. 50 yards that should have killed him 10 times over. Bullets kicked up sand around his boots. Mortar shells exploded to his left, his right. He didn't zigzag, didn't slow down, just ran straight at that blockhouse like he was bulletproof. The Marines behind him watched in shock. Nobody could survive that run. Nobody, but Basilone did. He reached the blockhouse, climbed on top. The Japanese inside didn't know what to do. Their guns couldn't angle up. They were designed to shoot down the beach, not straight up. Basilone could hear them shouting inside, scrambling, panicking. He pulled the pins on his grenades, dropped them through the gun ports. 1, 2, 3. The explosions inside that concrete box were massive. When the smoke cleared, that blockhouse was done. 20 Japanese soldiers died. The biggest obstacle on the beach, gone. His company could move now, could get off that killing ground and push inland. But Basilone wasn't finished. Another Japanese position opened fire. A second strongpoint with more machine guns. More Marines went down. The advance stopped again. Basilone didn't hesitate, didn't wait for orders. He charged again, grenades and demolition charges in hand, destroyed the second position the same way, climbed on top, dropped the bombs inside, eliminated the threat. 2 blockhouses down, the beach was opening up. Then he saw the tank, an American Sherman trapped in a minefield. The crew couldn't move. Every direction they looked, there were mines, anti-tank mines that would blow the treads right off. Artillery shells buried in the sand. The tank was sitting there like a target. Japanese mortars were already bracketing it. In 30 seconds, they'd have the range. That tank would cook. Everyone inside would burn alive. Basilone ran into the minefield. I walked right in front of the tank. The crew thought he was insane. Mines everywhere. One wrong step and he'd be blown in half. But Basilone knew his stuff. He'd been a machine gunner, a weapons expert. He knew how to spot disturbed Earth, how to see the telltale signs of buried explosives. He guided that tank step by step through the field, waved it forward, waved it left, waved it right, slow, steady. The tank followed him like a trained dog. Mortar shells kept falling. Closer, closer. The tank made it through, rolled onto safe ground. The crew cheered. Basilone saved their lives. As he moved along the edge of airfield number 1, a Japanese mortar shell landed at his feet. The explosion was instant, killed him immediately. Gunnery Sergeant John Basilone never saw his 29th birthday, never went home to his wife, never got to tell his story. He died on a volcanic island 5,000 miles from New Jersey, but because of what he did, 200 Marines got off that beach. His company captured their objective, and Iwo Jima, that tiny speck of rock and ash, became an American victory. The Marines buried John Basilone in the 5th Marine Division Cemetery on Iwo Jima, a simple wooden cross, his rifle stuck in the ground, his helmet on top. In 1947, the Marine Corps awarded him the Navy Cross for his actions that day. That made him the only enlisted Marine in World War II to receive both the Medal of Honor and the Navy Cross. The only one. But the medals don't tell the real story. The citations don't capture what it felt like to be trapped on that beach, watching this one man charge into impossible odds and somehow win. Private First Class Chuck Tatum was there that day. He survived Iwo Jima, wrote about Basilone later. He said watching the sergeant charge that the blockhouse changed everything. It wasn't about tactics or training. It was about seeing someone refuse to accept defeat, refuse to hide, refuse to let his Marines die without a fight. When Basilone charged, other Marines followed, not because they were ordered to, because they saw courage, real courage, and it was contagious. That's what leadership looks like in combat, not speeches or rank, action. The Battle of Iwo Jima lasted 36 more days after Basilone died. The Marines took Mount Suribachi 4 days later, raised the flag on top. That photograph became the most famous image of World War II. But that flag wouldn't have gone up if Marines like Basilone hadn't died to take the beaches first. The entire island was like that. Every yard of ground cost blood. Every pillbox, every cave, every tunnel had to be taken by hand. American tanks couldn't do it. Naval guns couldn't do it. Air strikes couldn't do it. It took Marines with flamethrowers and grenades and guts. 27 Medals of Honor were awarded for Iwo Jima, more than any other single battle in the war. 27 Americans who went so far beyond the call of duty that their actions seemed impossible. Darrell Cole, the bugler who became a machine gunner, destroyed 5 pillboxes alone before being killed. Tony Stein made 8 trips back to the beach under fire to get ammunition for his custom machine gun. Jacqueline Lucas, just 17 years old, threw himself on 2 grenades to save his squad. He survived somehow. His body was never the same, but he lived. These men came from everywhere, small towns and big cities, rich families and poor families. Some had been to college, some never finished high school, but on Iwo Jima, none of that mattered. What mattered was whether you'd stand up when the guy next to you got hit, whether you'd keep fighting when everything in your body screamed to run, whether you'd sacrifice yourself so someone else could live. The Japanese defenders on Iwo Jima weren't cowards. They were some of the toughest soldiers Japan ever produced. 21,000 men commanded by General Tadamaki Koribayashi. He'd built the perfect defense. Miles of tunnels connecting hundreds of bunkers and caves. Artillery that could hit any spot on the island. Machine gun positions that covered every approach. He didn't plan beach defenses like other islands. He let the Marines land. Then he turned the whole island into a trap. His orders to his men were simple: kill 10 Americans each before you die. Make them pay for every inch. And they did. For 36 days. They made the Marines bleed for it. 6,800 Americans killed. Another 20,000 wounded. The bloodiest battle in Marine Corps history. The only battle where American casualties exceeded Japanese casualties. And yet the Marines won. They took the island, secured the airfields, saved thousands of bomber crews who'd have died in the ocean without a place to land. Some historians argue whether Iwo Jima was worth the cost, whether those airfields justified the casualties. But the Marines who fought there don't argue. They remember their buddies who died in that black sand. They remember the guys who charged the pillboxes, who threw themselves on grenades, who led tanks through minefields knowing they might not make it. John Basilone's wife, Lena, was a Marine sergeant herself. She'd served in the Women's Reserve. They'd been married only 5 months when he deployed to Iwo Jima. She got the telegram at Camp Pendleton. Her husband was dead, killed in action. For the rest of her life, 54 years, Lena never remarried, never took off her wedding ring. She said she had her great love. John was it. Nothing could replace him. She died in 1999 at age 86. They buried her in California, far from John's grave in Arlington. But she never forgot, never stopped honoring his memory. Today, you can find John Basilone's name all over America. Streets, bridges, schools, even a Navy destroyer. The USS Basilone served for decades. The town of Raritan, New Jersey, where he grew up, holds a parade every year in his honor. Thousands of people come. It's the biggest military parade in America dedicated to one person. A statue of Basilone stands in the town square, bronze, 8 feet tall, him in his Marine uniform, holding his machine gun, ready to fight. Locals put flowers there on his birthday, on the anniversary of his death, on Memorial Day and Veterans Day. They haven't forgotten the kid from Jersey who became a legend. But here's what matters most. Basilone didn't think he was doing anything special. He didn't charge that blockhouse because he wanted medals or fame. He charged because his Marines were dying, because someone had to do it, because that's what sergeants do. They lead. They don't send their men where they won't go themselves. They go first, into the fire, into hell. They shoulder the weight so their guys don't have to. That's the code. Every Marine who came after Basilone knows his story. They teach it at boot camp, at officer school, at staff and CO school. When young Marines are struggling, when they think they can't do something, their instructors tell them about Iwo Jima, about Basilone, about what real Marines are capable of when they refuse to quit. It's not just history. It's a standard, a reminder that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's action despite fear. It's charging that blockhouse even when you know it might kill you, because your brothers need you. Chester Nimitz, the admiral who commanded the Pacific Fleet, said it best. He visited Iwo Jima after the battle, walking the beaches, saw the devastation. He said, among the Americans who served on Iwo Island, uncommon valor was a common virtue. Think about that. Uncommon valor, common virtue. On Iwo Jima, being a hero wasn't rare. It was normal, expected, the baseline. Marines did impossible things every single day for 36 days straight because that's what the situation required. That's what their brothers needed. But it started on February 19th, with sergeants like Basilone in Cole charging those pillboxes, leading their men off the beaches, refusing to let the Japanese pin them down. They knew they might die. They died anyway, but their deaths weren't meaningless. They bought time, bought space, bought victory. 200 Marines got off Red Beach 2 that morning because John Basilone destroyed those blockhouses. 200 men who went on to fight the rest of the battle. Some of them died later. Some of them survived and went home. But all of them owed their first hour on Iwo Jima to one sergeant who wouldn't quit. The black sand is still there. You can visit Iwo Jima if you're with the military or Japanese government. They do joint ceremonies now, Americans and Japanese together, honoring the dead from both sides. The pillboxes are still there too, concrete ruins half buried in the sand. You can see the gun ports, the blast marks, the places where Marines like Basilone climbed on top and dropped grenades inside. The island looks peaceful now, quiet, but 75 years ago, it was the worst place on earth. Basilone could have stayed home, could have spent the war safe, selling bonds, making speeches, living with his beautiful wife in California. Nobody would have blamed him. He'd already earned his Medal of Honor, already done his part. But that's not who he was. He was a Marine, His guys were fighting and dying. He had to be there, had to lead them, had to show them what courage looked like. And when the moment came, when his company was trapped and dying, he didn't hesitate, didn't calculate the odds, didn't wait for someone else to solve the problem. He just stood up and charged. That's the story. That's what you need to know about Iwo Jima, about John Basilone, about the Marines who fought there. They didn't fight for glory or medals. They fought for each other, for the guy next to them, for the chance to win and go home. And when winning required them to do the impossible, they did it anyway. They charged the blockhouses. They cleared the tunnels. They took the airfields. They raised the flag. They won, at a cost we still struggle to understand. But they won. And in those first terrible hours on Red Beach 2, when everything was chaos and death and fear, one sergeant decided he wouldn't let his Marines die without a fight. He gave everything he had. His courage, his skill, his life. He broke the Japanese defenses, opened the path forward, made the victory possible. John Basilone's charge wasn't suicidal. It was necessary. It was leadership. It was what Marines do when there's no other option. They attack. The final numbers are staggering. In 36 days of fighting, America lost nearly 7,000 killed and 20,000 wounded. Japan lost over 20,000 killed, with only 216 taken prisoner. The island is 8 square miles. That means over 800 Americans died for every square mile of Iwo Jima. No battle in Marine Corps history cost more. No battle tested them harder. But they took the island. They secured the airfields. And before the war ended, those airfields saved over 2,400 B-29 bomber crews that would have crashed in the ocean. Over 24,000 American airmen who lived because Marines died to capture a tiny volcanic rock in the middle of nowhere. Thanks for watching. Next week, we're covering the story of Audie Murphy, the most decorated American soldier of World War II, who single-handedly held off an entire German company for over an hour. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button. These stories deserve to be remembered. These men deserve to be honored. And the next generation needs to know what real courage looks like. See you next time.